Have you been living paycheck to paycheck, watching your bills pile up while your dreams sit on the shelf, untouched? Have you prayed, fasted, and wondered, God, why does my breakthrough feel so far away? Listen carefully, because today I'm here to declare something that will shake your very understanding of provision. God is about to shock your bank account. Not gradually, not slowly. He is about to disrupt your financial limitations in a way you cannot explain with human logic. Many of us have been trained to live small. Society tells us, manage your expectations. Don't dream too big. Don't aim too high. But God operates differently. His provision is not measured by human understanding. The God who multiplied the widow's oil, fed thousands with a few loaves and fishes, and opened the doors of heaven for Abraham, he is the same God who is preparing to interrupt your financial struggles with a supernatural shock. God's timing is perfect, and his ways are higher than our ways. When we talk about a divine shock, we are referring to a supernatural intervention that breaks the limitations of human understanding. This is not a slow, gradual change. This is an unmistakable, sudden, and overwhelming movement of God's power into your life, particularly in your finances. Many people live with a mentality of limitation, believing that their struggles are permanent, that their bills will always exceed their income, and that their dreams of financial freedom are impossible. But God specializes in turning impossibilities into testimonies. The divine shock is his way of showing you that he has never abandoned you, that his provision is always abundant, and that he is fully aware of your struggles and your faithful prayers. Look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison. To any human observer, his life seemed hopeless. There was no indication that God would ever lift him from despair to greatness. Yet God's shock came in the form of Pharaoh's dream, interpreted by Joseph. In a single moment, Joseph went from a prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt. His finances, influence, and authority were all radically transformed. And this transformation was completely unexpected by the world. This is how God operates. He does not always move in ways we anticipate, but when he does act, it is powerful, undeniable, and life-altering. Divine shock is not only about sudden wealth, it is about God's intervention in ways that exceed expectation. It could be an opportunity that seems too good to be true, a favor from someone you didn't expect, a debt canceled, or a sudden increase in resources that cannot be explained by normal means. The key is that it is supernatural. It cannot be traced back to human effort alone. When God decides to act, circumstances align in ways that defy logic and break the cycle of struggle that may have persisted for years. What has been impossible for you, God makes possible. What has been delayed, he brings to fruition. The shock is his way of reminding you that your life is in his hands and that he delights in your prosperity. The reason many people miss this divine shock is that they are not ready to receive it. God often positions breakthroughs behind a wall of preparation, faith, and expectation. He wants to see a heart that is ready to steward abundance, a spirit that is willing to act in faith, and a mind that believes in the supernatural power of God. When these elements are in place, God releases his shock in a way that cannot be ignored. It is designed to inspire faith, provoke gratitude, and demonstrate his authority over every area of life, including finances. Believers must understand that divine shock is personal and strategic. It is not random luck. It is God's response to persistent faith, obedience, and anticipation of his promises. Just as the bleeding woman reached out in faith and received healing instantly, your financial breakthrough can happen suddenly when you act with expectancy. It may feel impossible today, but God's shock is imminent, and it will come in a way that commands attention and establishes a new season of abundance in your life. Prepare your heart to receive it. Remove doubt. Refuse to shrink back in fear, and expect God to move in ways that will leave you astonished. The divine shock is coming, and it will transform not only your bank account, but your faith, your influence, and your destiny. Faith is the invisible force that moves mountains, opens doors, and activates the supernatural provision of God in ways that defy human understanding. Many people pray for financial breakthroughs, for promotions, for miracles in their lives, yet they remain trapped in the cycle of scarcity. The reason is simple. Prayer alone does not unlock God's provision. Faith is the key that turns his promises into reality. Faith is not just believing that God exists. It is trusting Him to act on your behalf even when circumstances seem impossible. It is the bridge between God's promises and your experience. Without faith, prayers can remain unanswered, opportunities overlooked, and miracles delayed. Faith is the engine that propels God's supernatural power into the natural realm. The Bible is full of examples of how faith activates provision. Consider the bleeding woman in the Gospels who had spent every resource she had on doctors, seeking healing but growing weaker instead. She had nothing left in her bank account, yet she believed that if she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, she would be made whole. That single act of faith triggered immediate provision. She did not earn the healing. She did not deserve it in human terms. She simply acted on faith. Her breakthrough was activated not by her effort, but by her unwavering trust in the power of God. This same principle applies to financial breakthroughs today. Faith is the invisible hand that brings resources, opportunities, and divine favor directly into your life. Faith requires movement. It is not passive. It does not sit back and wait for miracles to happen while fear or doubt dominate the heart. Faith reaches, it acts, and it steps out boldly into God's promises. If you are praying for a financial breakthrough, faith may require you to take steps you would normally hesitate to take, whether that means pursuing a new job, starting a business, giving sacrificially, or speaking words of expectation over your finances. Each act of faith, no matter how small it seems, signals to God that you are ready for His provision and positions you to receive it. Faith also has a temporal aspect. It requires patience and trust in God's timing. Abraham waited decades for the promise of Isaac. Joseph endured years of slavery and imprisonment before Pharaoh elevated him to authority. David waited in the wilderness for the kingship God had promised him. These examples show that faith is not merely believing that God can provide. It is trusting that He will provide at the perfect time. Your breakthrough may not arrive immediately, but persistent, expectant faith keeps you aligned with God's plan and ensures that when the time comes, His provision flows without delay or obstacle. Faith reshapes your perspective on scarcity and abundance. When you act in faith, you stop focusing on the limitations around you and start focusing on God's limitless power. You begin to see opportunities where others see dead ends, resources where others see emptiness, and favor where others see rejection. Faith transforms your vision, preparing you to recognize and receive God's provision when it manifests. The same faith that activated the widow's oil, the loaves and fishes, and the healing of the sick can activate a financial miracle in your life today. Faith is also closely tied to obedience. When you act on God's instructions, even when it doesn't make sense logically, you are demonstrating trust. Obedience is faith in action. The more you step out in faith, the more God's provision is released. Faith does not guarantee instant wealth, but it guarantees access to the supernatural power that produces wealth, abundance, and blessing according to God's perfect will. Ultimately, faith activates provision because it invites God to intervene in your life. It moves Him from being a distant observer to an active participant in your circumstances. It transforms your prayers from mere words into powerful declarations that set the stage for miracles. Without faith, your requests remain dormant. With faith, your provision becomes unstoppable. Faith is the spark that lights the fire of God's supernatural intervention. It positions you for abundance, opens doors to opportunity, and ensures that the divine shock God is preparing for your finances is not only possible, but inevitable. Preparation is often overlooked in the pursuit of breakthroughs, but it is a crucial principle in God's kingdom. Many people pray for financial miracles, sudden promotions, or unexpected provision, yet when opportunities arrive, they are not ready to receive them. God's provision is not random, it is strategic, and He often positions breakthroughs behind seasons of preparation. Preparation is not about accumulating wealth before God acts. It is about aligning your heart, mind, and actions with His will so that when the supernatural shock comes, you are able to steward it wisely. Without preparation, blessings can be wasted, opportunities missed, or miracles delayed. Think about the biblical example of Joseph. When God positioned him to become the second most powerful man in Egypt, Joseph had already been prepared through years of trials, slavery, and imprisonment. Those experiences refined his character, strengthened his faith, and taught him discipline, patience, and wisdom. When the moment of breakthrough arrived, He was fully equipped to handle the responsibilities and authority that came with it. Similarly, God's preparation in your life is designed to ensure that you can receive your financial breakthrough without falling into fear, mismanagement, or pride. Preparation often involves cultivating a heart of obedience and integrity. God wants to know that you will honor His provision. He looks at how you manage small things before entrusting you with greater resources. The parable of the talents teaches us that those who invest faithfully and wisely are rewarded, while those who hide or misuse what they have are rebuked. Preparation is about proving that you are a trustworthy steward, not just of money, but of the influence, opportunities, and responsibilities that come with it. Your breakthrough is a test as much as it is a reward. God's provision will flow to those who are ready to receive it, not just in terms of desire, but in terms of readiness to handle it responsibly. Preparation also involves building faith and expectation. Faith without readiness is like a ship without a crew. It cannot navigate the storm or reach the harbor safely. God often allows seasons of waiting, scarcity, or challenge to prepare your faith, strengthen your resolve, and deepen your trust in Him. These seasons are not meant to discourage you. They are meant to align your spirit with His timing and His plan. When your breakthrough comes, it will not be accidental. It will be the result of deliberate preparation that positions you to receive it fully. Discipline is another critical element of preparation. Financial discipline, wise decision making, and spiritual alignment all play a role in readying you for God's shock. Those who are careless with resources, who fail to plan, or who give in to fear often miss the supernatural favor God is ready to release. Preparing your heart, mind, and actions ensures that when the miracle arrives, it is multiplied and sustained. Preparation is not just waiting, it is actively growing, learning, and positioning yourself for what God has promised. Preparation also means cultivating a mindset of gratitude and expectation. When you are ready, your heart is aligned with God's generosity. You recognize the value of what you receive and honor it through obedience, generosity, and stewardship. The divine shock God is preparing will not only provide financial provision, but will also shape your character, deepen your faith, and increase your influence. God prepares you so that your miracle does more than solve your immediate needs. It becomes a testimony of His power and a vehicle for His kingdom. Ultimately, preparation is essential because God's provision is always bigger than what we imagine. He does not give in half measures. He does not hand out miracles to those who are unprepared. Your readiness, spiritually, mentally, and practically, ensures that His supernatural shock produces lasting transformation, not temporary relief. God's preparation is a sign of His wisdom and His desire for you to fully experience the abundance He has promised. The breakthrough is coming, but it will arrive in a context of readiness. The question is, are you preparing your heart, your mind, and your life to receive it? God's shock will not be wasted. It will be multiplied, sustained, and used to advance His purposes. Your preparation today ensures that tomorrow, when the miracle arrives, it will exceed your expectations and leave a lasting impact on your life, your family, and everyone around you. Sometimes God's provision does not come in the way we expect. Often He works through unexpected opportunities that appear out of nowhere, designed to deliver a supernatural shock to your life and finances. These moments are not coincidences. They are divine appointments carefully orchestrated by God to open doors that you could not open on your own. The problem is that many people fail to recognize these opportunities because they are focused only on what they think should happen. God's ways are higher than ours, and His timing and methods often surprise us. To receive the shock He has prepared for your bank account, you must learn to recognize, embrace, and act on unexpected opportunities. Consider the life of Joseph. He was in prison, forgotten by the world, yet God arranged a situation where He interpreted Pharaoh's dream. No human logic would have predicted that a former slave and prisoner would suddenly rise to become the second most powerful man in Egypt. This was an opportunity completely outside Joseph's expectations, but it was divinely orchestrated. When he recognized it and acted in faith, God's supernatural shock transformed not only his finances, but his entire destiny. In the same way, God is always arranging opportunities in your life that may seem improbable, unusual, or even impossible. The key is to be spiritually attentive and ready to act. Unexpected opportunities often come disguised as challenges, risks, or changes in circumstance. You may lose a job, face a difficult financial season, or experience a shift in your environment, and at first it may feel like disaster. But in God's kingdom, what seems like a setback can actually be the launch pad for your breakthrough, the door that opens unexpectedly, the call you receive from an unknown source, or the offer that comes when you least expect. It may be the mechanism God uses to shock your bank account. These opportunities are not coincidences. They are divine interruptions designed to release favor, multiply resources, and elevate your life. Recognizing unexpected opportunities requires faith, discernment, and boldness. You must trust that God is at work even when the circumstances appear uncertain. Opportunities may appear through people you meet, conversations you have, or doors that open in unlikely places. Sometimes it is an investment, a business idea, or an unexpected promotion. Other times, it is a financial gift or favor from someone God has positioned in your life. To receive these opportunities, you must be attentive, discerning, and willing to step out, even if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. God's provision often bypasses logic and conventional methods, and your willingness to act in faith positions you to receive it fully. Many people miss God's supernatural shocks because they are too focused on what they think is possible. They wait for the perfect opportunity or for circumstances to line up exactly as they imagine. The truth is that God rarely works within our limited expectations. His miracles are often far greater than what we could plan, calculate, or earn on our own. The opportunities he sends may challenge you, stretch you, or push you outside of your comfort zone, but they are precisely what you need for your financial and spiritual breakthrough. Acting on unexpected opportunities also requires courage and obedience. Fear, hesitation, and doubt can prevent you from stepping into God's provision. Remember, Joseph could have ignored the opportunity, but his faith and readiness positioned him to embrace the moment. Likewise, the divine shock God has prepared for your bank account may require bold action, strategic decisions, or faith-filled steps. Do not shrink back. Your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your courage and obedience. In the end, unexpected opportunities are God's way of showing that He is in control and that His timing is perfect and that His supernatural shock will exceed your imagination. Be attentive, act in faith, embrace boldness, and recognize that every door that opens, especially the ones you didn't expect, is a divine invitation to receive God's provision. Your bank account is about to be shocked in ways that will leave you astonished, grateful, and transformed. Obedience and giving are two of the most powerful principles in God's kingdom, especially when it comes to unlocking supernatural provision and financial breakthroughs. Many people pray for miracles, ask for financial favor, or hope for sudden wealth, yet they fail to recognize that God often responds to faith-filled action. Obedience and generosity are not just good habits, they are spiritual catalysts that multiply blessings and position you to receive more than you could ever imagine. When you align your life with God's instructions and give with a willing heart, you activate a chain reaction that brings favor, opportunity, and provision into your life. Throughout the Bible, we see that obedience triggers supernatural multiplication. Abraham obeyed God when he left his familiar surroundings to enter a land he did not know, and God blessed him abundantly. Joseph obeyed God's guidance, even in prison and in difficult circumstances, and God elevated him to a position of authority where he could influence nations. The widow at Zarephath obeyed the prophet Elijah and gave her last meal, and God miraculously multiplied her food until the famine ended. These examples show us that obedience is a key that unlocks God's supernatural provision, often in ways that surpass human understanding. Obedience demonstrates faith, trust, and readiness to receive what God has prepared, and it positions you for His blessings to flow freely. Giving is another critical element in multiplying blessings. In God's kingdom, what you release comes back to you with increase. The principle of sowing and reaping is not just about money, it is about faith in action. When you give generously and sacrificially, you are acknowledging that God is the ultimate source of your provision. You are declaring that you trust Him to supply every need, and you are aligning yourself with His abundance. The act of giving is a spiritual magnet that attracts favor and opens doors. It tells God and the universe that you are ready to receive, and it releases supernatural multiplication that cannot be earned or calculated by human means. Many people miss financial miracles because they focus on receiving rather than giving. They ask for God's provision but fail to participate in the cycle of generosity that activates multiplication. The widow's 2 small coins given in faith did more than provide immediate help. They demonstrated her trust in God and positioned her for supernatural increase. Similarly, when you obey God's instructions and give faithfully, even when it seems small or inconvenient, you set in motion a process that can shock your bank account in ways that defy human logic. Your small acts of obedience and giving are the seed that grows into a harvest of favor, resources, and supernatural provision. Obedience and giving also cultivate a heart that is aligned with God's purposes. When your actions reflect His will, He entrusts you with more, not just wealth, but influence, opportunities, and spiritual authority. God multiplies blessings for those who are faithful, not for those who act out of obligation or convenience. The multiplication often in unexpected ways at sudden opportunities, divine connections, debt cancellation, or unexpected financial gifts. These blessings are not random. They are a direct response to your faith and obedience and your willingness to release what you have into God's hands. Acting in obedience and giving requires faith and courage. It may feel counterintuitive to give when you are struggling or to follow instructions that seem challenging. Yet, these acts are investments in God's kingdom and in your own future. Every step of obedience and every act of giving positions you to receive the divine shock that God has prepared for your life. Your bank account, your resources, and your influence are multiplied because you chose to trust, obey, and give in faith rather than hoard or hesitate. Ultimately, obedience and giving multiply blessings because they align you with God's supernatural economy. They open the doors for divine provision to flow, create momentum for supernatural increase, and demonstrate that you are ready to steward abundance responsibly. When combined with faith, preparation, and attentiveness to God's opportunities, obedience and giving become the mechanisms through which your financial breakthrough is not only possible but inevitable. The miracle is coming, and your willingness to obey and give will amplify its impact, leaving you and everyone around you amazed at God's provision and glory. Patience and boldness are 2 of the most essential qualities for receiving God's supernatural provision and experiencing a financial breakthrough. Many people want miracles immediately. They pray, they fast, they hope, but when the answer does not come on their timeline, they grow discouraged, lose faith, or give up too soon. God's timing is perfect, and the combination of patience and boldness positions you to receive a harvest that is not only lasting, but also transformational. Patience allows you to endure seasons of waiting, scarcity, or uncertainty, while boldness gives you the courage to step into the opportunities God places before you. Together, they prepare you to experience the fullness of God's shock and provision. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active faith. It is trusting God even when the numbers don't add up, even when bills are overdue, and even when every human indication suggests that provision will never come. Biblical figures like Abraham, Joseph, and David exemplify this principle. Abraham waited decades for the promise of Isaac, yet he continued to believe and act faithfully. Joseph endured years in slavery and prison before God elevated him to a position of authority and abundance. David spent years in the wilderness before he became king. Their patience was not wasted. It positioned them to receive a harvest so profound that it shocked everyone around them. Similarly, your financial breakthrough may require enduring seasons of preparation, testing, and waiting. These seasons are designed to strengthen your faith, refine your character, and align you with God's perfect timing. Boldness works hand in hand with patience. Waiting does not mean sitting idle or shrinking back in fear. Boldness is the courage to step forward, take faith-filled action, and declare God's promises over your life, even when circumstances seem impossible. Boldness allows you to recognize and act on unexpected opportunities, to give generously when it seems risky, and to obey God's instructions with confidence. When patience keeps you steadfast in faith during waiting periods, Boldness moves you forward when God opens doors. Without boldness, opportunities may pass by unnoticed. Without patience, waiting can turn into frustration or doubt. The combination of both is what produces a harvest that shocks the natural and blesses the supernatural. Patience and boldness also reshape your perspective. They teach you to trust God's timing, to expect miracles even in the face of adversity, and to step into provision without hesitation. They help you understand that God's financial shock is not merely about money. It is about transformation, faith, and alignment with His kingdom purposes. By practicing patience, you cultivate endurance. By practicing boldness, you cultivate courage. These qualities prepare your heart to receive abundance responsibly and to steward it in a way that honors God. The harvest